Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of the Sports Insight with your host Amda Khan. And yes, as you know, we give you sports information from all across the globe. You guys can surely reach out to us on our social media handle, which is at the rate of Indus News Sports. That basically works both for Twitter and for Instagram. But anyways, we'll go to the headlines first. And yes, from the world of PSL, Multan Sultan and Quetta Gladiator, the match is underway, while Peshawar Zalmi handed Karachi Kings a demoralizing 6-wicket defeat, and Quetta Gladiator bounced back to shock Lahore Qalandar on Tuesday. And yes, from the world of NBA, Kevin Durant's heroic 49 points give Brooklyn Nets 3-2 edge over Milwaukee Bucks on Wednesday. And yes, from the world of football, we talk about Euro 2020. France win heavyweight clash with Germany 1-0 as Mats Hummel's own goal gave the world champions a winning start. And yes, from the world of Tokyo Olympics, athletes could be kicked out of Tokyo Olympics if they violate the virus rules. And yes, those were the headlines. Not to forget, Multan Sultan and Quetta Gladiators are currently playing the match today. But not to forget that there were two interesting matches that took place. And obviously, Peshawar Zalmi managed to win against Karachi Kings. A major turn of events for them because obviously, if you look at the match, it was a short phenomena in terms of, the entire match. And not only that, Quetta Gladiators managed to win against Lahore Qalandars. But anyways, to discuss the in-depth analysis, we have with us former cricketer Hassan Raza. Hassan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
So Hassan, I would surely want to talk about the last two matches to begin with. I'm going to start off with obviously Karachi Kings being defeated in a very, very sad state of affairs by Peshawar Zalmi. So what's your take on this match? Because there are a lot of turn off table these days now.
Obviously, Karachi Kings is very important things about the bowlers and fielders, especially the mentor, one of the biggest Multan Sultan fastest bowler, Wasim Akram, he was with the Karachi team. Definitely, they're giving you some good tips about Mohammad Amir, Ashar Iqbal, fast bowler from Karachi Kings players. But they are very disappointed against them. And actually, one of the best batsmen right now at the moment in the world, Babar Azam, he plays from three formats, cricket from 50 overs game or test matches or T20 as well. So he got him out about without any runs last against Peshawar Zalmi match. That's a very huge disappointed about Karachi Kings. So Babar Riaz bowling very good out of length. He bowled from Yorker ball early on, new ball. So very weakness about the Babar Azam. When he played from out of the shot, out of stump, he played very strongly. But on side, he missed the leg stump. That's why LBW early on. Right. Sajil didn't get runs longer like Karachi Kings. He got only highest runs, 25 runs. So they need to be good batting side, but they need to be strong from the upcoming matches.
Hassan, I would want to talk about, we have seen turn of table to be precise because when these matches were being played in Pakistan, things were pretty much different. But after the fixture went over to Abu Dhabi, things have started to really change for all the teams.
Definitely things about change in Sheikh Zayed Stadium over there because 45 degrees temperature was there early on starting the PSL 6 season matches over there in Sheikh Zayed Stadium. Early on, very low scoring matches, 150, 160 runs, but now 190 runs, highest runs. Very difficult, and pitch was very difficult. Seen in Quetta Gladiator like match, Usman Chinwari was the man of the match. He bowled very well last matches. So very difficult to drop the catches well, especially Herschel Gibbs. He was a fielding coach, Karachi Kings. Very disappointed about the Karachi fielding side, especially our bowling side. They dropped the 2-3 catches. That's why they defeated against them.
Right, and I think in generally, if we look at the situation, you're absolutely right. Obviously, the temperature, it surely is going to be very exhausting for all the team members. But this particular match, which Peshawar Zalmi, managed to win. If you look at the stats, obviously, even though it's 109, to be honest, in terms of the score itself, I think we were still looking at initial matches were 130, 140, and it went up to 190. So where did Karachi Kings go wrong? Specifically, not only the fielding side, but overall, I think they just started, tumbling down and coming down as, they were never a good team before.
They have a good team about in Karachi as well because their highest scoring PSL season, last season 5, season 4, when they are playing from Karachi National Stadium, they are very good batting pitches over there.
Right.
So that's a difficult pitches here, we've seen in Sheikh Zayed Stadium, so they have struggled, top order batsmen especially. Baba Azam only one player. He got 85 runs, 2 innings back to back. He got 250s.
Right.
So there need to be partnership, 2-3 players playing from a good side. Like Ahmad Wasim is a captain, experienced captain, but there need to be big scores like 180, 190 runs. That's a defending score. But they lost the catches and like bowling experience. They don't have any bowling experience. Ahmad Wasim early on starting, but it didn't take the wickets early on, so that's a difficult to struggle in Karachi Kings.
So, okay, so let's hope things shape up for them. I would want to talk about the next match, obviously, that was Quetta Gladiators winning against Lahore Qalandars. I think this is also a very interesting match. Why? Because for now, if you look at the situation in terms of Quetta Gladiators, they have won 2 games in 8 games. But where did Lahore Qalandar go down? Because in terms of Lahore Qalandar as a team, I think they have a very solid team, and I think everybody watching the match were in a state of shock.
Obviously, expectation about Lahore Qalandar's top order batsman, especially Bandang, he got a fastest 50 as well, and fastest so many sixes in last year season in Kazafi Stadium. But this time he didn't get runs. Especially David played from very good innings, proper cricketing shots.
Right.
He's the one only struggle from playing. Suhail Akhtar is a captain from Lahore Qalandar, but he didn't get runs. So they need to be top order strongly like Lahore Qalandar. The bowling side is very good. If you've seen Rashid Khan, he took 5 wickets, a very good bowler, especially Harisov, he's a fighting bowler,
Right.
that's overs. But they need to be good top order batsmen like Suhail Akhtar, he's a captain, so he didn't get runs from this season. So they must be getting runs about 170, 160 runs, then they are defending bowling side, because their bowling side is very strong, the Hawks and they need to be win matches.
Right. And in terms of obviously the temperatures thing, if you want to talk about that, how much impact is it giving to all the players out there? Because we've seen a few players coming off the pitch again and again in terms of, and obviously they're sweating in a very, very crucial situation. But in the long run, this can definitely affect players of Pakistan cricket team, not only our team, I think for all the players who are participating in PSL.
Definitely, all around the world participate about this big tournament in PSL, Pakistan Super League. Around the world, people watching every match. So if you've seen the Quetta Gladiator, Andre Russell, he's injured, and some of the players, because of humid and temperature, it's very difficult to get handled over there.
Right.
But upcoming youngsters, they're playing from like Musa, Islamabad fast bowler, Man Shinwari, and a couple of the fast bowlers. They are very energetic. They perform very good about the 4 overs spell. They are very potential. They're bowling from very good line to length. So they need to be good performers as well, because humid was there in Sheikh Zayed Stadium, but they are controlled. And the youngsters, they're very important to get performance from PSL. That's why they're giving the target about different leagues to play and playing from country as well.
Right. One more interesting match that I would want to talk about for sure, which was Karachi Kings obviously versus Islamabad United. And I think a major turn of events of when Islamabad United managed to win by 8 wickets, even though when we saw Karachi Kings performing and managed to make that score of 190. Babar Azam superbly played 81 of 54 balls. But in generally, and not only him, it was Zadran who actually managed to, he was 71 for 42 balls not out. But yet again, I think a few misfields actually caused a major disaster in Karachi Kings' defeat.
Yeah, that's a fielding is very important. If we miss the 2-3 catches, that's very difficult. Colin Mendo was the main player from Islamabad United. He's very hard hitter. He's playing some cricketing shots. If you've seen last inning, he played remarkably 45, 50 runs.
Right.
But unlucky, and especially Iftikhar Ahmed is good perform. He played for a couple of matches from PSL. He played from 3-4 years from Pakistan, representing from T20 as well. So he's a very good inning, remarkable innings. He got a man of the match last match.
Right.
So that's good improvement. Some of the good players from Islamabad United, and definitely they are top of the table. So they have a good tough time for the other team.
So in the long run, how do you see things establishing? Because right now, almost 24 matches are done. How do you see by the end of the tournament, how would things establish? Because the major thing is our team has to go to England after this as well, which is going to be very tricky for our team members, for the fact that, if there are a lot of injuries of our key players for the team, how will, PCB manage that, to be precise?
Well, definitely Mohammad Wasim was the chief selector from Pakistan Cricket Board. He given to name some youngsters from who got perform in PSL this season.
Right.
Like Ahmad Azam, Protagator, he has a name from T20 squad. And some of the good players, Harisov was also T20 bowler as well.
Right.
So they need to be good combination because you play from London over there. That's a good temperature over there, but then in Dubai or Pakistan. So they need to be more energy and playing from good cricket over there. June, very big season over there in England. So England team very potential that time. So
Right.
let's see, they have a good hopes to play, good perform, and mixer seniors juniors combination in Pakistan team over there. That's why they giving to good result over there.
Right. I look forward to that. The last question, Hassan, that I want to focus on is, for instance, our key players right now who are playing the PSL may get up with some injury, obviously due to the situation and the weather. Obviously, it's really, really drenching out there. So, how do you think PCB will look into the situation of our squads that would be going not only to England but also to West Indies?
They have a very big chances from youngsters who perform here in PSL. Some of the fast bowlers getting named to the, like Ashar Iqbal recently, he played for Karachi Kings, he played for against Zimbabwe debut in T20.
Right.
And Musa also Islamabad United, he bowled a very good bowling. Some of the two players in Peshawar Zalmi, Umaid Asif is bowling very good as well. So they
Right.
need to be preparation about the upcoming tours in West Indies or England.
Right.
So they have a good chance from chief selector Mohammad Wasim to give it a good proof from winning combination with the Pakistan teams. Only Babar Azam not here giving to chance other players as well. Like Rizwan is an informed batsman from PSL. He played from Zimbabwe, good performance. And Fakhar Zaman also in the keep in touch is good performance as well. So they have a good tour,
Right.
consecutive performances, consistent. So
Right.
looking forward to win the matches in Pakistan over there.
Done. Thank you so very much, Hassan, for being a part of the show and discussing the world of cricket with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was Hassan. Obviously, he added in a lot of value with regards to obviously the PSL and its happenings. We'll surely keep you posted about the world of PSL soon. But what we'll do is we'll take a quick break, and once we get back from the break, there is more coming up your way. See you guys after the break. And welcome back from the break. And yes, before the break, we were discussing obviously the world of PSL, the major developments that actually took place, but not to forget that we also discuss all sorts of sports from all across the globe. So we're going to jump over to obviously the conference semifinals in the world of NBA, and to discuss this interesting match of the Brooklyn Nets versus Milwaukee Bucks, 114 to 108. We have with us Eric all the way from Canada. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So, Eric, what an interesting game. Turn of events for sure for Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, they managed to win 114 to 108. But not to forget that I think at the last moment they managed to be where they are. So, what's your take on this entire fifth game, which obviously now gives them the lead over Bucks?
Well, what a swing of a game. If you were watching the first half, Milwaukee dominated from every facet. And Brooklyn, I think they were a little shell-shocked. James Harden wasn't really himself, and that was clear throughout the entire game. Kyrie Irving, of course, is injured. And then we just get this virtuoso performance from Kevin Durant. Damian Lillard had 55 points against Denver. I believe it was in game 4 or game 3. But this 49-point, 17-rebound, 10 assists game is the signature game of the playoffs. And it really reinforced the fact that Kevin Durant is the premier player in the NBA. What a performance by him.
Absolutely, and absolutely, as you mentioned, that the Bucks surely were dominating, and it was maybe utmost surprise because if you look at those shots that were taken from their side, were not going to the mark. And in the first quarter, if we look back into it, 15 points for the Nets and 29 points for Bucks. And then we jump over to the second quarter, which makes it 28 points for the Nets and 30 points for Bucks. So it was a pretty intense lead, but I think the last two quarters slowly and gradually changed the complete picture of the game.
Yeah, and obviously all the kudos to Durant for his performance, but also if you look on the Milwaukee side, the offense stagnated, and that's the problem they had in the playoffs, is that when they're going well, the ball is moving around, they're getting good shots, they're getting good penetration, and the ball is whipping around. When they start to stagnate, and I guess when they get overwhelmed a little bit, it goes into more one-on-one, a lot of isolation, a lot of bad shot selection, and that's sort of the trademark of the Bucks when it collapses. So a really tough performance. You're up 18 points and everything is going well. I think they even got it up to 21, I believe, at some points in the first half, and they just couldn't get that extra sort of gear to finish it off, and it came back to haunt them. I mean, Durant was spectacular, and they couldn't defend him enough, and they didn't change enough to try to thwart that sort of uprising from the Nets.
Well, if we actually look into Bucks themselves, I think they surely are a very highly competitive team in terms of their performance. And coming back to life from the start when Brooklyn Nets managed to win the first two games, then Milwaukee Bucks made their comeback of winning the rest of the two games. Now, obviously, the Brooklyn Nets lead. But what do you see? Because we still have that one thing. Obviously, James Harden always been having a lot of issues with his hamstring. Obviously, there has been a lot of issues. We're not really seeing that trio that they've always wanted to work with. It's very rare to see them work together. So what do you think of maybe the next game? Because I think the next two games will surely be game changers for either one of these teams.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I think the scary part is that Brooklyn hasn't had all of their guys together very often, and they're still pretty overwhelmingly dominant. Right. So losing Irving obviously hurts. Having Harden at, I would say he was at 60% in this game. They're still an overwhelmingly powerful squad. They just have that much star power because Durant is that good. But this goes back to Milwaukee, and they're very comfortable at home, and they're going to be. I think it's still potentially because of the injuries that Brooklyn has. I think Milwaukee can still force a game 7. It'll just be interesting to see. The one thing that Brooklyn wasn't able to do in Milwaukee was score a lot of points. They were held under 100 for 2 games in those 2 losses. So it's still up for grabs, and we'll see. I think that there's still plenty of basketball left in this series.
Right. So it's going to be an interesting take when we see the rest of the games lining up. But I think, if we look into the gelling side of, obviously, if we talk about Bucks, if we talk about Giannis, to be very honest, I think he single-handedly has done so much for the Bucks. And obviously, they still have those gelling moments of the entire team together. But when we talk about Brooklyn Nets, obviously, everybody's always wanted to see that trio work. But for instance, in the long run, because you can't rely at the last moment because of the injuries that they've been going through for a while, I think they may have to suffer more if the trio does not really work in the game, in the next game and the game after.
I mean, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that on paper, Brooklyn is obviously an overwhelming favorite. There's actually, you have 3 of these top 10 guys in the league all on the same team, and they're just overwhelming, even if they haven't played together a lot. But that is a knock on them, that they haven't been together long and trying to get together in the playoffs where you may face more adversity. It's kind of questionable to see how they'll react to it. In terms of Milwaukee, I mean, Giannis, he's been there with the Bucks. They've had spectacular flameouts the last 2 playoffs.
Right.
And the one thing that I would note is that he's putting up great numbers, but it's still they're having problems in the clutch because he's lost his confidence shooting the ball from the free throw line. I don't know if you noticed in the game, but every time Giannis would get fouled to go to the free throw line, the fans actually started cheering because they knew that it was going to be a struggle for him to get those 2 points at the stripe. So it's going to be tough for them. He's got to figure it out, and the Bucks sort of have to maybe find a way towards the end of the games to go to their other guys, which is Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, to kind of create that offense and maybe have Giannis in that action as opposed to that one-on-one or that isolation where Brooklyn can foul them knowing that they can likely get 1 out of 2 points on that possession, which is a win for them.
Right. And talking about confidence, let's hope, I'm sure the rest of the upcoming games would surely be super interesting because now it's going to be either one of them making their way or paving their way ahead for sure.
Oh, I mean, yeah, this is great. I mean, you're getting a chance to go to the Final Four. This was always billed as the best series of the second round, and now it's living up to it. After the first 2, we didn't know if Milwaukee was going to show up, but they've evened it up. And then, again, what a game yesterday. It was appointment viewing for that, to watch that performance. So
absolutely. And talking about, obviously, I surely want to jump over to the next game as well. Would want to talk about, obviously, the Clippers versus the Jazz. Obviously, the Clippers managed to win, obviously, but the series is now tied 118 to 104. So what's your take on this last game?
Well, I got to say that I think the Clippers have finally kind of emerged as the super team that everybody expected to be 2 years ago when they got put together. This is the best that they've looked on both sides of the ball. They're a defensive juggernaut. The last game, the first quarter, they really imposed their will on the defensive side. Right. And the Jazz didn't really have an opportunity to offensively attack. And, I mean, it kind of hurts them that Mike Conley isn't in the lineup, but they looked overwhelmed, and they were down 30-13 after the first quarter. And really, that was the game. Utah found their footing later on, but this LA Clippers team is looking really scary in the playoffs.
Right. I'm sure, like I said, now the series, I think for most of the teams that have to establish themselves in the top four are going to be established, and I think the game is getting more and more stronger. And yes, as you said, if you look at the stats, in terms of Utah Jazz, obviously they scored only 13 points in the first quarter, and whereas the LA Clippers managed to score 30, and I think that probably gave them the instant boost. But not to forget, sometimes these instant boosts come back to, like, if we just talked about Brooklyn Nets, obviously there was a huge lead in terms of Bucks, but I think sometimes a team can maybe work it out and maybe take that lead forward.
Well, yeah, and in this case, in the LA game, that's exactly what happened. I mean, the Clippers are playing with a lot of confidence right now. I think it's unfortunate because they're under so much scrutiny because of what happened last year, where they blew a 3-1 series lead, and they've fallen behind 0-2 in both of their series before we've actually seen them at their best. But when they are at their best, they probably are, minus Brooklyn, probably the most talented team left in the playoffs. So when they are able to build up a lead like that, the luxury that they have is that they can turn to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to get them buckets, where other teams may struggle without having pure shot creators like they do.
Right. I would surely want to talk about one more game that actually took place, and one of the most interesting games, obviously, that also managed to tie things up. We're talking about Atlanta Hawks, obviously winning 103 over 76ers, which was only 100 points. I think one of the most close calls games so far. So what's your take on this specific game, Eric?
Oh, well, this game was also had a very big swing. So Philadelphia builds itself an 18-point lead in the first half, and it looked like game over. And then at some point, Joel Embiid for the Sixers, I mean, he went in the locker room in the second quarter and he came back, but he wasn't the same. He went 0 for 12 from the field the rest of the way in the second half. He finished with 4 for 20, and the Hawks just kept on kind of attacking, and they kind of gutted out this win. It wasn't pretty. Trae Young did not shoot well, and they did not play great, but they made enough plays at the end. And I think that's one of the themes of this playoffs, is that having the premier shot creator has been the sort of advantage right now in these series. And Trae Young is sort of the catalyst, whereas without Embiid at his best, there's not another guy on Philly that can kind of take control offensively. And that's sort of the difference right now. And going into Game 5, it's going to be a pretty exciting game. So,
well, to be very honest, Eric, I think all the major teams that we're talking about, surely all of them have pretty much tied. If you look at them, if you look at the stats, I think nobody wants to let go, because I think this is the very last moment of their climb to the top four. So anyways, all I'd say, Eric, good luck to them all. And once again, I would like to thank you for being a part of the show and discussing the world of NBA with us. Thank you.
I appreciate it anytime. And check out some of the previews that we have at sportsbettingdime.com, so that we can for your basketball entertainment. And we're up every day, so check us out. And I really appreciate you taking the time, and let's do this again.
For sure. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you.
So obviously the in-depth analysis in terms of the world of NBA, but yes, what amazing conference semifinal so far. But not to forget that there was also this interesting game that actually took place, and surely would want to talk about. I'm talking about the world of football. Yes, talking about Euro 2020. What a match. Yes, we're talking about France and Germany. Yes, France managed to win 1-0. Obviously, what a game. I was watching that game, and it was one of the most shocking things. But obviously, Hummels actually managed to, he was trying to save a goal, but obviously that own goal gave France that victory over Germany. Not to forget, Germans, obviously the defending champions, surely are working really, really hard. But I think in terms of the table, if we look at the table, now Portugal is obviously in terms with France together, and obviously Germany is below. So it's going to be super interesting to see how things flow for them, because the defending champions are trying their level best to make their mark as the best team. But yet again, what a match. I'm sure you guys would have definitely seen it. If not, do check it out. I think one of the most interesting matches that I've seen so far. Anyways, I'll quickly jump over to the world of Tokyo Olympics. Yes, so as we've been discussing Tokyo Olympics for a while, because of the coronavirus situation, things have been major turn of events, ups and downs and delays. So currently, the athletes could face an Olympic ban for violating virus rules in Tokyo. And Tokyo is currently under a very virus state of emergency. So things are once again very tricky for them. And as we know, the coronavirus pandemic is still out there. And in terms of number, if you talk about numbers, 64% of the people still want to go ahead with the tournament, but because this was a survey by NHK, and that said 31% of the respondent want the game cancelled because of the fact that, you know, if there could be more people involved nearby, so they wanted to end it. But anyways, let's see how things flow by for them. And one of the most interesting things about them is that 84% of the athletes that are actually flying in for the Tokyo Olympics are vaccinated. And most of the athletes that are coming from Asian and African countries are flown to Qatar for their vaccines. So I think it's going to be a major interesting thing. But anyways, guys, this was pretty much it from the world of sports. You guys can surely reach out to us on our social media handle, which is @Indus News Sports. Till then, take good care of yourself and bye-bye.